And when we got up to approximately the 29.5-mile marker, my boss was in the helicopter with the Jefferson County pilot. They radioed to me. They said, go ahead and shut everything down. We have a crime scene.
18 Wheels in a Highway, the murder of Myra Danette Stalbosky, only on the Murder Police podcast. Part 2.
Warning. The podcast you're about to listen to may contain graphic descriptions of violent assaults, murder, and adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
When you look through that viewpoint down on I-71 and you hear the Jake brakes, and then for that glimpse of that thing, did that speak again? Because it's a truck and it's got Jake brakes, but did something talk to you again?
I don't know what talked to me. Something talked to me and says, get this truck stopped and take a look at this guy.
Yeah, because
get this truck stopped and take a look at this guy. And so I grabbed my radio immediately. We didn't have the mics. We just had radios on our side. Pull out.
You weren't fancy.
Yeah. Stop this truck. I'd like to talk to the driver of this truck.
Out of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of vehicles on that road in a 24-hour period, that's why I'm saying something said, wow.
I quickly assessed, the information I had. I know that if she had encountered a truck driver on the northbound side of I-71 on the day previous, and both of the victim and the driver of that truck was heading north on the day previous, it would be reasonable to believe that same truck could be coming back through that same area the next day. Mm-hmm. So that was just a quick assessment. We get down to the scene. He tells me these things, I don't.
And dad and son are still in your car.
The dad and the son are still in my police vehicle. Yeah. The 92 Ford Crown Vic. Forget it.
Did the dad say, why are you stopping this guy? What's going on? Why are you wanting to? Yeah,
briefly. I remember very little about the conversation going on. The one thing that stands out to me, he says, oh, yeah, I want to tell you that I'm a police officer. As a matter of fact, I'm a chief of police for this town in Ohio where I live. And I was like, okay. And we go on to the scene. We get down there, and I'm doing this roadside investigation. And this guy's telling me that he lies and cheats on his logbook. And then he finally comes clean and says, yeah, I was through here yesterday. I said, when you were through here yesterday, did you stop at the rest area on the northbound side of I-71? Yeah, I did. I said, was there a young lady there that you spoke to or encountered at the time when you had stopped? And he said, well, yeah, Dad and Tire Changer did. So Dad was his father, who was also driving for this same company, and Tire Changer was this other guy's CB handle. It says they had talked to her. In other words, he's trying to insinuate that he hadn't talked to her is what he was trying to do. He's like, well, Dad and Tire Changer did. I said, well, what happened? He says, well, they told me she's having vehicle problems, and they knew I had mechanicking experience is the way I never will forget this. I had mechanicking experience, and they asked me to take a look at her truck. I said, did you take a look at it? He says, I did. I said, what was wrong with her truck? I said, describe the truck to me. He described the truck that was sitting in front of the parking lot. And I said, what was wrong with her truck? He says, I believe that her thermostat was sticking. And he says, I pecked on the outside of where the thermostat was set in the engine, causing it to open up. And it opened up, and I followed her up to that LaGrange exit, and I got off behind her. I said, okay.
Powerful statements, especially going ahead and admitting to contact and then accurately describing the vehicle.
Well, I'm still stuck that he initially, and of course it was a ploy, but you don't remember going through there, but now you remember that you were looking at someone's truck.
All causing my suspicions to heighten. Mm-hmm. All these things are, if you didn't have nothing to conceal, why would you lie?
There we go.
Well, did he tell you when he followed her to the next exit, was it she's supposed to go her way and I'm going mine? She's going back home now, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get to that part here in just a second. So, standing there on the side of the road, I said, Chris, I said, where is this girl? What happened? He said, well, I followed up to LaGrange 22, got off the exit there. We pulled on that gas station parking lot. Said she come to my truck and thanked me and told me she'd never rode in a big truck before. And I told her I'd take her for a ride. I said, was she in your truck? He said, yeah, she got in my truck. And says, I pulled out and instead of turning, I turned right and went up the hill to Walmart parking lot. I pulled up in the Walmart parking lot. She got out and walked away, and I didn't see her beyond that. He says she got out, and I don't know what happened to her. I don't know where she went.
She's just willing to walk back to her vehicle all that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't far. The Walmart was very close proximity. To take someone for a ride, maybe 200 yards up the road in a tractor trailer would not be a meaningful ride. Mm-hmm. So he says he went up there and he pulled on the parking lot. I did not find any evidence where he had ever pulled onto that parking lot. In other words, and I had identified witnesses there on that parking lot that had seen him pull out of the parking lot. Instead of going toward the Walmart, he turned and went toward where he would get back onto the interstate. So I said, Chris, would you mind if I just take a look in your truck just to satisfy, that I know she's not there? He said, sure. He says, go right ahead. So I go up to the side of the truck and I climb up on the side of the truck. And when I look in the truck, Miss Stalbosky, Myra, the victim, was a beautiful young lady, had long, pretty blonde hair. And one thing that I noted inside on the fabric inside that truck was there were several pieces of long blonde hair. Some of these pieces of long hair, when I seen them in there, I noticed that they had matter attached to one end of them, which would lead me or any reasonable person to believe that if they had matter like skin matter or something attached, that they were probably removed by force in some way. So, it was right then and there that I knew, there was something greater to this, that, it wasn't just a regular missing person case, and this deserved a lot more attention than what I felt like that I was comfortable with giving it. So I come back and I talk to Chris, the truck driver, the suspect on the side of the road. I said, Chris, I said, listen, I want to take a better look inside your truck. I said, but I got a consent to search form. I said, would you agree, to let me look in your truck and search it more thoroughly? And he said, yes. I said, I would. I said, well, let me get this consent to search form out. I went back to my car. I got the consent to search form out. I explained it to him in great detail.
What did Dad say when you came back?
I didn't get into I just went back and got a clipboard out of my trunk that I knew I had these consent search forms in. I went back up there and I stood on the county police vehicle there and we filled out the consent search form, explained it to him in great detail, and he consented to it. So after he consented to that search, I knew that we could not conduct a meaningful search there on the side of I-71. And I knew I felt that I had something more than just a run-of-the-mill missing person, little girl that's run away from home or something. We had more than that. So this was back during a time in 1995 when the cell phones were first coming about. And I had one in my cruiser, but it was mounted and I couldn't take it out and talk in private outside the cruiser. Now, keep in mind, I still got the victim's father and the brother in my vehicle. So I have to get in the phone in my cruiser and call my boss and explain to him in code as much as I could but the father he's really smart and he understands.
He's a chief. He knows what you're saying.
He knows what I'm thinking. He knows what's going on, and he's upset. My God, I would be too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He knows what I'm thinking, and I had to call. I ended up having to call another unit there to the scene to get them away. But I explained to my chief, I said, listen, we need to tow this vehicle off. We need to process it. I said, listen, this is something more than what I'm accustomed to doing. I'm not experienced at this. He said, well, we'll send somebody to you. I'll get you some help. And yes, we'll go ahead and tow the vehicle. So I got back out and I explained to Chris, I said, listen, I said, well, you don't mind if I tow your vehicle in here, get it searched somewhere else, we'll pay the bill and all that. And I said, after we search it, if everything's good, we'll let you, send you on your way. And he said, yeah, that's fine. And I said, there's somebody coming out here going to help me. And, would you mind to go back to the police station where we can talk in a more comfortable environment? He said, sure, I'll go back and I'll talk with you. And we took him back, and the guy that assigned to help me, he's from the Oldham County Police. His name is Bill Bosmer. Really good guy. He's been around for a long time. Old school detective. Remind me a lot of Hill Street Blues, NYPD Blues, Sipowicz.
Yes.
Remind me a lot of Sipowicz,
At least you didn't say Barney Fife.
No, he was
Except he probably didn't carry vice grips. You remember that scene in Hill Street Blues where he pinches that guy's nasal with a vice grip?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably didn't do that.
Yeah.
That's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. That would result in a federal indictment somewhere.
Yeah, I think in 1983.
But he was an old school cop like that. But he was smart and he knew. So we took the suspect back to the police station. I think Bosmer transported him back to the police station, and I followed him back, and I dropped and then I went on to the police station. We took him in, sat him down, and started talking to him.
Was the dad saying, look, Sonny, you got to tell me what's going on because you're doing a lot here?
Yeah, they were upset. Both the father and the brother were upset. I remember very specifically them being very upset. The brother was emotional. Because they smelled the same things that I smelled, and that was his baby sister, and she was gone. They didn't know where he's at, and this was unfolding quickly. So we took him back to the police station there at the LaGrange Police Department on West Jefferson Street in LaGrange, and we sat him down. And we started interviewing. We Mirandized him, and he waived his rights and agreed to speak with us. And back during that time, I didn't know much about conducting those type of interviews with people. I wasn't very skilled or experienced at it, and I was in there participating in this interview, and I was given wherewithal. I was this young, militaristic, very driven. And Bosmer, this old detective there that had been around for a long time and knew what the heck he was doing, was kicking me under the tables. Stop, slow down, stop. So we got to a point in the interview where the suspect, William Blue. So I remember the question I asked him. I said, could you please tell me where were you at the time the sun went down? He turns real red in the face. He balls his fist. He takes and he slams them against the table, and he says, G did, you think I did it. I didn't do it. I don't know who did it. Well, that was important to us because at that time when we was interviewing him, the only thing we had was a missing person case.
And he used the word did it.
Did you say did what, Chris?
No, I did not say that.
You wouldn't do it right then.
No, we didn't say that. We just let him talk because he was upset, and we had to get him settled down because I had some more things to ask of Mr. Blue.
Was that a real quick switch for him? Like, was he pretty paced and non-confrontational?
He was pretty. And that was quick.
That's what I was going to say.
Just quick. It's like I'd backed a tiger into a corner, and he was going to fight his way out. So that response that he gave like that was not thought out. But he made that because, he wasn't able to think, as clearly, and because he was being pushed.
Questioned.
Yeah. Not because I was a skilled investigator. Hell, I didn't know what I was doing. I was young and inexperienced. I'd catch DUIs and do all kinds of stuff like that, but I wasn't a skilled interrogator. I was not. I just did not have the skills. But, he said that, and I said, we got him settled down. I said, Chris, man, we're not trying to give you a hard time. We're just trying to figure out where this girl went. I said, and right now, I don't know that you've had anything to do with it other than the fact that you tried to help her, and that's thoughtful of you to try to do. I said, but would you agree to give us a Blue male sexual assault kit? Absolutely. He said, I'll do it. He said, I want to go join the U.S. Marshals. I want to come back down here and see your boys. Trying to relate to us,
Sure.
Hey, don't look at me. I'm going to be a U.S. Marshal, I said, well, Chris, I appreciate that. If you ever make that happen, I said, we'd be glad to have you come back down and see us. So we took him to the hospital there, and we got this male sexual assault kit. They drew his blood and all the other things that comes along with that. And after we got that done, because I had a consent to search for that truck, I had to have him present in order for that search to be valid, because as a part of that consent to search, he had the right to stop us at any time if he wanted us to. And if he wasn't present while we were conducting that search, he couldn't stop us. Therefore, we could face suppression issues.
But why can he, if he's given consent, why can he stop it? Isn't it like once you give consent?
Once you give the consent, you have a right to, just like you have a right, like if you give somebody the Miranda. If I'm questioning my neighbor refused to talk to me, they refused, in the middle of that, they can stop without any.
That's really a good question, because a lot of people don't understand that, is that, and if you didn't have him at the scene, you're right. I think that a good defense attorney later would find a lot of jeopardy in the idea that the idea that you protect the record quite a bit when they're standing there, because then you've got the signed consent form, and then you've got a record of them watching the search and never interrupting it.
Right.
But you're right. They can stop it.
So he's standing there, and you all are doing your search. Where's Dad and son?
The dad and son is back by that time they're back at a hotel there in LaGrange, Kentucky, while we're doing a search. So Detective Bosmer and I, and along with another police officer, and Blue, we all go to where the truck is parked on this impound lot. And I think the name of the place is Sligo, Kentucky. I think it's Barrickman's is the name of the towing company. But we go there, and we have Chris. We got him a chair. He's sitting outside there, and we're searching. The other officer's sitting with Mr. Blue, the suspect. And when we go into the truck, we start collecting things that we think that might be important for our investigation. And, and I'd talk with Bosmer about these hairs that I found there. We started collecting those things, the hair follicles that we had found. And we collected those. We collected some wire cutting tools. We collected pieces of wire. We didn't know if it had anything to do with our case or not. We collected those as we looked, as we was in the truck. But in addition to that, in this truck, it was a tractor trailer, had a sleeper compartment behind the seats. And when we looked in the back of that sleeper compartment, one of the things that we noted was there was a mattress back there. There was no linen. There was no pillows, nothing. There was just a
raw mattress.
There's a mattress back there. And the side of the mattress that was up that we could see, it looked dirty, torn, and tattered, like it had been laying on the side that was facing up for a long time. So we went back there. That's odd. We photographed everything as we went, collected, cataloged our evidence, and we went back there. So we decided we wanted to look on the other side of this mattress. And when we lifted this mattress up, the mattress is laying on this wooden press board type material. When we lifted that up, we heard the slightest sound of some type of object that fell out of that mattress that hit the platform where the mattress would lay. And we looked down, and we seen a earring. The earring was had an angel earring. It was a post style earring that would have had some type of an attachment on the back of it. And the post of it, the earring that we found there in that sleeper, was the post was bent, and on that earring, there appeared to be blood on it. We didn't know what it meant, but we collected that item. When we raised that mattress up, we found 2 large splotches of what we believe to be human blood on that mattress, and we collected those items as well.
Real quick on that teeny tiny earring, and this is one of those things that I talked about before about how the stars align. If everybody was talking and stuff like we do at scenes and everything, that can't be that loud. And then again, for the opportunity, kind of like now we're back to the truck again through that narrow view, somewhere in that somebody hears that tiniest sound of a small earring dropping. And because if you hadn't, it could have been brushed up, it could have been stuck to something and stuff. I just think that's fascinating that, again, those small details that we take for granted sometimes, that somebody heard the sound of that teeny little earring dropping.
Yes, and we collected that, and after we was done searching the truck and seizing everything out of the truck that we wanted, we had a whole lot of suspicion that something bad had happened to this young lady.
I do have to ask, I hate to interrupt you.
Sure.
As you were pulling out that blood-soiled mattress, what was Chris's demeanor? Did he just say, "You all need to stop, I'm done"?
No, never said a word.
Did
Never
he
said
acknowledge, that's dirty because of this?
He
Nothing.
never said, I never asked him another question about it. We just seized the
And
evidence.
he's just watching you all
and
pull
he's
it
just
out.
sitting there watching us taking all this stuff out.
Another good question, because another reason why it's good to have them there is, of course, so they can invoke stopping it. But the other thing, too, is watching their reaction to how things are happening in real time. Like, he could stop it. He could say, "That's it, I'm done." But then sometimes their body language, things they might say, for example, if you found something and they think you found something, a guy like Chris, and he didn't do it from what you're telling me, but they might start offering excuses for stuff before you even question them.
Yeah.
So having them there is another non-custodial interview in and of itself. Good question, because that's exactly what you're watching.
So he didn't get squirrely or didn't start kind of wringing his hands?
I really don't remember watching very close. We were all tied up in the moment of collecting this evidence, packaging it properly, and preserving it for, later on. So after that was over, we had a whole lot of suspicion that something bad had happened to the girl, and I believed that something bad had happened to the young lady in that truck. But having that feeling, knowing it and proving it, having the probable cause to charge someone with offense, I think was non-existent at the time. And we had to turn the truck driver and the truck loose after we'd collected the evidence.
It ain't easy.
It was, we in our hearts, we knew, but we needed more than we knew.
It's not easy. And again, we deal with a lot of victims' families. And I think some of these families on the unsolved or whatever, they know it's that close. And they get frustrated. Well, why didn't it happen? But in the system, part of the way the system works is we don't do that until, I'm going to argue, past probable cause. Would you agree? Yeah. Probable cause is there, but we want triability. And on our own conscience, we want absolute. I mean, probable cause, we're not going to get into a discussion about what it is in today, but it's important for families to know that the police aren't charging people because they don't care or because they're lazy. It's you get one shot, and it's not rolling dice. It's one shot. So I'm glad you talked about that. And then for the investigators, I've had to do the same thing more than once, Sonny, and you probably did on other things, is watching that person walk away because you're like, okay, if I get lab results back or more physical evidence, then I might have this. Then you got to go find them. And if they've taken off and left, it's a horrible feeling, but it's also what separates this justice system from the crummy ones in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Due process.
Amen. Amen.
So you sent him on his way.
So we sent him on his way.
Not even knowing if you'll ever see him again.
Hopefully, but yeah.
Hopefully, but you don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So after we got through processing the truck, we took all the evidence and we went back. We secured it in the trunk of my cruiser. And we went back to that hotel, and that earring was of a particular interest to us because I wanted to know if that was something that belonged to Myra. Mm-hmm. So by this time, this was probably 8 o'clock on Friday, Friday, April the 28th of 1995, probably 8 o'clock in the evening. I remember it was just barely getting dark, and we went back to the hotel where they were staying, and I met with Mr. Stalbosky and his wife, and the grandmother was there, and the was there by that time because they knew that this was an unfolding investigation. The whole family had converged on LaGrange, Kentucky, because they wanted to know where their girl went, And Detective Bill Bosmer and I took the earring. We had it in a little tin thing with a piece of cotton in there, and we took it and showed it to them and said, "Did Myra have something like this?" The grandmother was there, and she teared up, and she says, "Yeah, that looks like an earring that one of a pair of earrings that I bought her in Christmas of 1994, which would have been 4 or 5 months earlier." And I said, okay, yes, well, our investigation is continuing. So the timeline on this case was going to mean a whole lot. being able to develop a comprehensive timeline of his movements and her movements. And I know that the phone records of where she had called him, where Myra had called her father, and I knew that north of where we were located there on I-71 was a weigh scale. And I knew that those records that come from that weigh scale would identify what time his truck, the suspect's truck, would have cost those weigh scales. So that would be important too. On that very evening after I got done with talking to the Stalbosky family and them doing identifying the earring, I went to work getting phone records, and I wanted weigh scale records. I remember that I called AT&T corporate security, and it was somewhere in New Jersey. And I explained to them that we was conducting a criminal investigation a possible criminal investigation in regard to a missing person. And I needed the phone records. And they said, well, we're going to need a subpoena.
Absolutely.
So I had a good relationship with the county attorney's office there, where I just pick up the phone and say, hey, Mr. Finley, and his name was John Finley. He's deceased now, but I said, we got this going on, and could you please help me get a subpoena for these phone records for this date, between this date and this time? And he did. He come in and got the subpoena for me. Couldn't email it or anything like that. Had to fax it back then because there was no email. There probably might have been for some people. It wasn't for us, but there was, I faxed that to AT&T corporate security. They give me the phone records, and I was able to identify all 3 phone calls, where they come from, and how long they lasted. And I got those probably got those early on Saturday morning. But in addition to that, I contacted the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and they was able to get me those weigh scale records, and I probably got them on a Saturday morning sometime too. So after we put all this together, me and my boss and Detective Bosmer, we sat down and we just had talked about the case. Well, we know that he was trucking north, up into East Canton, Ohio is where he was going. And we said, well, if he was going north, it's in East Canton, Ohio, where he was taking this load of powdered clay, this is a crime that might have crossed state lines. And my boss says, we probably need to ask for some assistance on this. We need to contact the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And that was on a Saturday morning, and we was able to get in touch with whoever the duty agent was on time at that time that was on duty, and they sent an army to us. We told them everything that was going on, and I'm going to tell you something. You hear people say a lot of this and that about the FBI or whatever. Let me tell you something. They showed up and they was ready to be the police.
Oh, that's a skilled organization. I know you're right. There's a lot of smack out there, but it's and one more time back for the listeners and the victims' families. One of the things you'll hear when people get super frustrated with a local police department is, why don't they call on the FBI? And you hit it on the head. The FBI can only come in when it's FBI federal stuff. So the interstate
would make it, they have an interest in it.
That's it. And so it's very rarely that they're going to swoop in like you see on TV and take a case unless there's something that makes it federally applicable.
Yes.
But again, I've just known too many fantastic FBI agents, and consider them dear friends, and an extremely skilled organization.
They had a whole lot more resources than what we had.
Oh, Lord. The stuff we probably shouldn't talk about or will disappear.
They showed up out there, and we sat down in a conference room, and in the greatest amount of detail, I sat there and explained the case to them. They said, we're all in. We're here to help you. They said, well, I remember the guys, the special agent in charge of the Louisville division, his name was Dave Cole. He says, we probably need to try to do a air to ground search for the victim, because we're probably going to find the victim. That's what he said. I said, well, we can contact the Jefferson County Police, Jefferson County, Kentucky Police, because they had a helicopter. We got in touch with them. They agreed to assist us. This was on a Saturday, and they agreed to come out on a Sunday. But Sunday morning, April the 27th, 28th, 29th, April the 30th, let's see, 27th, April the 30th when they came out, or they was going to come out. The weather was bad. We had a lot of fog and stuff, and they couldn't get up till early or late morning. They showed up, and they started their air-to-ground search. We started there around the area where we last known that she was seen, there at the Super America gas station. We searched the area around Walmart, air-to-ground, and then through investigation and looking at these phone records, I knew that the last phone call that she made to her father, the one I spoke of, it lasted for 14.7 seconds, did not come from the Super America. It came from a Davis Brothers 76 truck stop that was at exit 28 in Henry County, Kentucky, which would have been 6 miles up the road from LaGrange.
North of LaGrange.
North
again?
of LaGrange.
Okay.
So
Yes.
he had driven her up there
Yes.
Didn't let her off in the parking lot.
at
Right.
the Walmart.
Yeah.
Well, as opposed to him alleging that he dropped her off the parking lot, we know we can place her there making those phone calls from that payphone and that 76 truck stop there in Henry County. So we took our search and we moved forward with the helicopter from exit 22. We moved on up to along I-71, searching along the way to see if we could find anything, which, probably weren't. It's her last phone call was made from the 28. So we got to the 28 where the Davis Brothers 76 truck stop was located. And the helicopter went around that, very carefully, looked for anything and everything we could find on the outskirts. We'd searched the dumpsters and all that stuff to see if we could find anything. Nothing was there. And then we went back to I-71 to move north on I-71. So once we get on I-71, there was an FBI agent with me. His name is Ed Evans. And as we was moving north, I noticed, looking up ahead, there was vultures, buzzards, or whatever. And I really did. It really didn't strike much with me at the time, because this is one thing I know. One thing I was good at was working deer impact collisions, because we had a lot of deer up there. And I was like, well, there's deer laying, hit on this road all the time. It could be they're after a deer. But as we moved north on I-71, we got on to 28. And when we got up to approximately the 29.5 mile marker, my boss was in the helicopter with the Jefferson County pilot. They radioed to me. They said, go ahead and shut everything down. We have a crime scene.
Oh, Lord.
And so me and Special Agent Evans, we got out and we walked alongside the interstate and looked over an embankment at about the 29.5 mile marker. And laying over the embankment, I'm estimating 25 feet, 30 feet, is we could see the remains of someone laying over there. I could tell that the remains had blonde hair on it, and, that it was the remains were clothed. And so
emotionally, when you heard the news, and then emotionally, when you looked down that, which isn't very far, 25 or 30 feet, what did it feel like? What was going on in you when you got that word and then you stood there and saw that?
This ain't good. This is not good. And I knew that it was
Yeah.
But I walked over the embankment, straight line, straight down to the remains. I checked for vital signs. There was no vital signs. And I can't remember which ear was which, but one of the ears had a earring missing out of it, and in the other ear.
Hey, there's more to the story, so go download the next episode like the true crime fan that you are.
The Murder Police podcast is hosted by Wendy and David Lyons and was created to honor the lives of crime victims, so their names are never forgotten. It is produced, recorded, and edited by David Lyons. The Murder Police podcast can be found on your favorite Apple or Android podcast platform, as well as at murderpolicepodcast.com, where you will find show notes, transcripts, information about our presenters, and a link to the official Murder Police podcast merch store, where you can purchase a huge variety of Murder Police podcast swag. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, which is closed caption for those that are hearing impaired. Just search for the Murder Police podcast and you will find us. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe for more and give us 5 stars and a written review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcasts. Make sure you set your player to automatically download new episodes so you get the new ones as soon as they drop. And please tell your friends. Lock it down, Judy.
Hey everybody, it's Wendy. In case you didn't know, David finally got off his butt and finished his book, True Crime and Consequences. The book is super educational and talks about the world of true crime and where it meets real investigations. It is perfect for everyone, from true crime fans like myself, to the true crime podcaster or YouTuber, to the amateur detective or web sleuth. And not to leave anyone out, you cops need to read this book too. True Crime and Consequences is available at murderpolicepodcast.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, well, pretty much anywhere you'd find a great book like this. So true crime fans, go get your copy today.